In this exercise, we're going to do a stretch for the front of the hips. You can do this in several different ways, and I'm going to start by doing this as a standing stretch. So if I just turn sideways on, and I'm going to go into a lunge position, making sure that my legs are wide enough apart so I have a stable base. You don't want to feel wobbly in this. Both feet are flat on the floor and my upper body is upright. Importantly, both of my hips are facing forwards. So if you imagine like you've got headlights on your hips, they should both be facing forwards, not twisted to the side. As you're here, just allow your body to sink into this stretch, and you'll start to feel the stretch here in the back leg coming up from the thigh into the front of the hip, and you may also feel this coming into your groin area on the inside of the thigh. The hip flexors are muscles that sit deep in your front of your hip. Their job is to lift your legs. So if you're walking or running, particularly if you're going uphill or upstairs, then you use your hip flexors. But for lots of people, these can get tight, and they can get overly tight, particularly if you sit a lot. So if you're driving or sitting in a desk job. This is a nice way to start to stretch out these muscles and allowing time for the tissues to start to release and let go. And the longer you do this, the more you'll feel that you can sink deeper into this stretch, which you'll feel more deeply into the front of your hip area. For the other side, we're going to do this as a kneeling stretch. For this side, I'm going to do this stretch as a kneeling stretch. And if you're doing this at home, it's a good idea to use something like a pillow or a cushion just to support your knee as you are in the stretch. So as I go into this stretch, I'm going to just lean forwards. But I'm keeping my upper body upright, and this just allows me to feel a stretch coming into the front of my hip, up through my thigh, and this will just allow this area to start to stretch out. So this may be more comfortable for you than doing it as a standing stretch. And you can experiment with just leaning more into the stretch, which is just dropping your weight forwards, or maybe coming out of it a bit, making sure that it feels comfortable as a stretch and allowing time for the tissues to start to release and let go. This area can get very tight, as I've said. Lots of people spend an awful lot of time sitting, whether it's at work, driving, or at home in the evening, sitting on the sofa. And this makes your hip flexors very tight. And so sometimes this can contribute to groin pain or even to lower back pain. So by stretching this area out, you're helping to improve the mobility and the flexibility of your hips and taking some of the pressures off the structures around this area. So just allowing time for things to release. And as long as you're in this stretch for at least a couple of minutes, then the tissues will be starting to release and let go. Another way to do this stretch is by using a table such as this massage table or your bed. And I actually find that this is the easiest way to do this stretch. So I'm going to lie down. And then I'm going to drop my leg off the side of the table. So all you need to do is allow your leg to hang heavy, and you'll start to feel a stretch coming up into the front of your hip and into your groin area. If you're doing this on your bed at home, then just make sure that your leg is heavy. So if you have a low bed and your foot is touching the floor, that's fine. You just need to make sure that your leg becomes heavy so you feel the stretch. If on the other hand you have a higher bed and your leg is dangling, if that's comfortable for you, that's fine. If it's not, you can always put a small stool or a pillow underneath your foot to support your leg. And as long as you're here for a couple of minutes, then this will be starting to stretch the tissues in the front of your hip.